Real quick with roll call, I guess I'm missing Dan Callahan. I know he's downstairs. Dan, if you can hear this, do you want to jump on? Or if somebody's downstairs and can yell at Dan, he can jump on. John Sorich is not around yet either. I got. Do you have another pen? Mine seems to be dead. Unfortunately. Thank you very much. Sorry, everybody. I guess we have about 2 minutes before the meeting actually starts, so I'm sure a few people will be jumping on in the meantime. John and Justin, welcome aboard to watch and everything. If you do have any questions, please let me know. That is here. Hello again. Dan, welcome aboard. John, good to see you. So everyone's present. I'll hold off for a few seconds for County Attorney Joyce to come in for an update on Communication 2020-503. See where we're at with this. I was told that. Hello, County Attorney Joyce. Thank you for being here.
Hello.
How are you?
Good.
Good. Well, I'll call the Judiciary Committee meeting of January 13th, 2021 to order. First item on the agenda would be Communication 2020-503. Dan Olson, Commissioner, District 5, requesting Council Commissioners to address the following problems with Butte-Silver Bow Ordinance, Chapter 6.16- livestock and domesticated hoofed animals, as currently written, is unenforceable by BSB and does not interface seamlessly with MC 81-4-201 subsection, I believe that's right, 81-4-401, to allow the state to provide enforcement. Attorney Joyce, could you give the new people on this body, including myself, an update of what we're looking at with this communication?
Sure. Mr. Chair and members of this committee, this was discussed, I guess, at the last Judiciary Committee. Obviously, there's a few new members now. And what happened at the last meeting in December was we held onto this communication and, oh, there he is, Ed Randall from Animal Control was going to appear. It looks like he is on now. Just as a brief background, this is a issue that has been discussed for several months now. And it was first brought to the attention of former Commissioner Olson after some of his constituents had some issues regarding some cows that were getting out of their, I guess they were grazing on another person's property. Somebody leased this land to somebody to graze their cows, but they are able to, we are an open range state, so you're supposed to fence your animals out. And people were doing that. However, I think issue was that these animals were breaking down the fences and doing some damage to some personal property. So, some of these, individuals had talked to Commissioner Olson and also had talked to Mr. Randall and some other people at Animal Control. I think they also talked to Commissioner Frederickson. And there was first a discussion about whether or not Butte-Silver had a herd district, and we don't. But in order to have a herd district, it really is up to the individual constituents. They have to file a petition and get 55%, I think it is, of people that are interested in forming a herd district to sign a petition and go through a public hearing process. But then the issue became whether or not this ordinance that we have on domesticated hoofed animals, and it does preclude them from running at large. And there is a section in here that Butte-Silver is supposed to impound those animals. And of course, our animal control office doesn't have the equipment or ability to impound animals of that size, or a number of them at any one point in time. So I guess now Mr. Randall could maybe weigh in on what discussions he had in terms of what the next steps might be, and deciding whether or not this is an ordinance that we should continue to have on our books, and or whether or not we need to have some kind of a contract with the Department of Livestock to be able to have them pick up these animals on behalf of Butte-Silver Bow.
Okay. Sorry, I muted myself. Mr. Randall, could you provide us with that update?
Thank you, Chairman. County Attorney Joyce, council members. We met with Commissioner Olson several months ago, spoke to him several times on the phone and through via email. We also spoke to some of the residents out in the area. And I guess some of the concerns, well, they're all legitimate. Any concern or complaint is legitimate. But, reading the ordinance and going through everything, I'm not certain the remedy that has been discussed is going to take care of the complaints that we're having out there. I believe the intent of the ordinance was to ensure that horses and cows and animals like that are not on the main thoroughfares. In other words, if I were next door to Mr. Callahan, Commissioner Callahan, and his horses got into my yard, I'm not certain that it's our responsibility to go on his property and take the animals. I think that it is our responsibility, or it could be our responsibility, to ensure the safety of pedestrians in our main thoroughfares. I think that when we're talking about animals knocking down fences or getting into property, we definitely have an ordinance on the books in the Animal Services Department that could take care of damages. You can receive a ticket, and then it's up to the judge, if there are damages to property. But I think a lot of these things that we're discussing are civil issues. We live in a rural area, specifically out there. A lot of folks live out there, a lot of people with animals. So I'm not certain where this body wants to go. If you want us to work on the ordinance, I think we could surely clean it up. I'm not certain that contracting with the Department of Livestock or anyone else is going to benefit or is going to take care of the problems out at specifically Little Basin Creek. I'm not certain that if we see an animal on the road Our animal control officers are pretty versed in who owns the animals, usually find their owners. I'm not certain that we want to take that next step and go on people's property to remove animals that aren't theirs, or every time we see a horse or a cow on a road to contact a contractor and have them pick them up at, $600, $700, $800 to board them. We do have support when we do find animals that are injured, large animals like that. We use the fairgrounds. I think Commissioner Sorich is aware of that. We also have Mr. McGee out there that really supports us and will come and pick the animals up and take care of them for us, and we pay him for that. So I'm not certain exactly what council wants to do with this issue. I think that we can clean up the ordinance a little bit and address more animals on main thoroughfares, but anything else is probably not going to support the complaints that we've received in that area. And I think that we have to look for the greater good, where we live, what our lifestyles are, and we have to look at public safety, obviously. So that's what I have to say. Are there any questions or concerns, or is there a direction that this body is looking at going?
Anyone have any questions, comments, or concerns? Dan, are you keeping your horses in line up there? I guess I imagine my biggest thing at this point in time would be I will call up former Commissioner Mr. Olson, and I will contact you as well, Justin. I believe you took over for him, and maybe the three of us can talk. Have you heard of anybody? Have you talked to Mr. Olson on this matter at all?
It's kind of new to me, so I haven't heard anything about it, I guess, but I could see it happening, so.
No. Growing up on a ranch in rural Montana over in Alder, I would say that I would see quite a bit of livestock on the road, and I figured the best thing to always do and the best policy was, like you said, Mr. Randall, is contact the owner of the animals and have them come over and pick up the animals and mend the fences and take care of the situation. And a little bit of personal responsibility goes a long, long ways. I'm not sure if these people who he's talking about are being kind of lackadaisical in this with their attitudes or what's going on there, but I would like to talk to Commissioner Olson on this before I move forward with it too much without any other input. I see Commissioner Fisher. Go ahead, sir, please.
Thank you, Chairman Anderson. I don't serve on this Judiciary Committee, but after hearing Mr. Randall's talk and County Attorney Joyce talk, as I spoke last time we visited about this, I do have a little bit of knowledge about this, from years past, but we do have an open range in Montana. I think Ed Randall is on the right path. I don't think we want to get into a point where we're starting to, become a law enforcement on livestock, because I think that could get into a pretty broad field. And like Director Randall said, next thing you're paying people $700, $800 to pick up an animal, and then they don't want to release it, and you're paying daily. It's like a car when you send it to the wrecking yard. They pick it up and tow it. Next thing they're charging $15, $20 a day, and they charge you to pick it up. Well, a horse or a steer or a calf or heifer or something, it's going to be a lot worse. So I totally agree with what Director Randall's saying, and I don't think this is something we should start pushing too far ahead. And that's what I have to say. Thank you, Chairman Anderson.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Fisher, for your input. Anybody else have any Commissioner Sorich and then Commissioner Olson? County Attorney, did you have something to add?
Mr. Chairman, I was just going to say, the reason that I think Commissioner Olson wrote this communication is because there was obviously some complaint from people that he was representing. And, right now we do have an ordinance in our municipal code that indicates that we will impound livestock that is running at large. So, I mean, you can, obviously it's a good idea to talk to Commissioner Olson and get, more information from him, but there is something that's going to have to be done, I think, with the current ordinance, because there are people out there that are complaining that it's on the books and it isn't being enforced.
Exactly. Thank you very much. With that, I'll turn to Commissioner Sorich again, and then to you, Mr. Callahan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I understand, there is a cost to it, but again, I do believe this is something that you were talking about, maybe, just calling the owners and have them come and pick up. I believe there's owners out there, they just let them roam. As Commissioner Callahan could probably attest to that. You probably see this quite frequently up in north of Walkerville. There's some owners up there, they just let their cows out, almost let their dogs out, in a sense. And it's a great frustration to a lot of these people living in these areas, that to keep animals out. You have to build a fence, which I know they've done. It's a touchy situation, but I believe there should be some accountability for those that are letting their animals run, and I'm not sure that there is at this point.
Thank you. Mr. Randall, I'll go to you, and then I'll go to you, Mr. Callahan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioner Sorich, appreciate your comments. The complaints that we're getting, what we're talking about, I don't think will work. We have to take care of, and I think there is some work that has to be done on the ordinance. Anytime something's brought up, you have to update your ordinance constantly, and I appreciate and understand that. I don't think that we want to get into a situation where we're taking animals that are just loose. We have an open range law. You have to fence out. Again, we have to work on the ordinance and update it. But I don't want to be in the business of taking these animals constantly. Now, we're surely not going to leave them on a road if we see them. If we don't know who the ownership is, we contact the brand inspector. We go through our whole process, and we do that weekly. I just don't. What brought this problem to light were animals that aren't being fenced out or have broken down old fences, and they're really civil issues. And I'm not certain that we want to mesh and get involved in that. If you want me to look at it, I most certainly will. But I think it's something that we don't want to particularly be involved in. When I spoke to the folks that live out there, their complaints weren't that the animals were on the road. The complaints were that the animals were coming on their property, some fenced in or fenced out and breaking down the fence, which we can deal with, or that the folks that lived out there didn't have a fence and the cows were coming onto their property. Now, we had some issue with an owner out there that was leasing his property, and it wasn't a good situation, and I believe that we've rectified that situation. But I think we have to look at the big picture, and the big picture states that we have to work on our ordinance. I'm just not certain that we want to contract, and when we see an animal like that we're just going to pick it up. I think that we have a process in place. Our animal control officers, again, are well-versed in traffic control and taking care of that, working with the police, highway patrol, and brand inspector. And they know whose animals are whose in this area. In other words, if we see a cow by my house, they'll know who owns it and they'll go do it. And if not, they get the tag, they contact the brand inspector. We find out it's usually a pretty easy fix. I don't think that where we live and this rural area that we all love, I'm not certain that we want to go the route that we're going to be heavy-handed on this. So those are my thoughts. And again, with that said, that I will work with the county attorney on updating the ordinance.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Commissioner Callahan.
Thank you, Chairman Anderson. I think you're exactly right, Ed. You know, most people that have livestock and they have horses and stuff, most of them are pretty responsible people if you get a hold of them. Big animals happen to get out, fences get knocked down, whatever. You usually get a hold of the people that own the property or the animals. They come take care of the situation. But I think what happened up here was the people were taking care of the problem. And I think that's where the frustration came in, was it just repeatedly kept happening. And the people got frustrated because they try to keep them out, they come in and damage their property. And once we get to that point, I think there is something that we should have to do to at least the animal owner. I mean, you can go in and run the animal out, but it's their nature to go back to that nice green lawn and eat that green grass, because it's a lot better than the grass across the road in the prairie. So when that keeps happening and they won't fix the fence, I guess there's something that these people expect us to do to probably the people that own the animals. And I don't know what the answer is, but I know most of those folks up there were really, really frustrated. It just kept happening.
Right.
So I don't know what our answer is, but when this happens, these people expect us to be able to do something to help them. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Mr. Chairman?
Please, go ahead.
Oh, thank you. Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Callahan, I agree with what you're saying. I think that we do have processes in place to take care of animals. Again, the complaints that we received out there, there's nothing, I don't believe there's really a lot we could do. I'm not certain that we're going to go on private property. We're not going to go on Mr. Callahan's property to get Mr. Anderson's cows. We're just not going to do it. I don't believe. I don't read the ordinance that way. But if it's that vague even to me, then obviously we have some work to do on it. The complaints were property damage, which we can address. If there's a complaint that there's an animal on a main thoroughfare or a public road or a public area, we can take care of that. We have processes in place to do that. We've done it several times. We do it with injured horses mainly. So I think one cow at one time, and different wild animals, but we have a process in place. But I think a lot of this is civil. I think that, you know, I think these are civil issues. And I think that we have to really think about that and think about exactly where we live, how folks live, and specifically in these outlying areas.
Thank you very much, Mr. Randall. Commissioner Mankins, please.
Thank you, Chair, Chairman Anderson. And I think I agree with quite a bit of what Director has stated in the couple that we have, but I see that County Attorney Joyce, does it read that way, that we cannot go and get something off of private property? Is that how the contract right now reads? If, for instance, I had cows and it broke through somebody's fence and they wanted it to be removed, for instance, if I had it, they broke into Commissioner Frederickson's yard and eaten his green grass, and he wanted them removed. So does it read that way?
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Mankins. So that's what I was trying to say, is that currently, we have, our ordinance essentially indicates that there is a area where we can impound animals that are running at large. There's a boundary defined. And so there's a little bit of tension, obviously, between the fact that we are an open range state, and then yet we have this ordinance that says that we can impound commonly domesticated hoofed animals that are running at large. So the reason, again, this came up was because people were fencing, I think they were fencing out like they're required to do with open range, but the animals were breaking through the fences and then damaging private property. So that's why I'm saying that we need to, address this ordinance because it's out there and people know that it's there, and the individuals that were complaining were saying, why isn't it being enforced? And I think what Mr. Randall is indicating is that maybe that's an ordinance that we need to look at and amend it such that what Butte-Silver is responsible for is not impounding animals that are running at large anywhere, that break through people's fences, and that if they do damage to private property, that's a civil matter between individuals, and that maybe our ordinance should just be picking up animals that are on public property and on roadways and public thoroughfares. Does that answer your question?
Thank you. I guess what I would like to do in spirit of time, we have another item on the agenda in a very few minutes. What I guess I'd like is if somebody would make a motion for the county attorney to prepare some changes to this ordinance, what she felt was necessary. If we can do that, I have a look from county attorney where I'm not sure if I'm coming across clearly or not. So I guess what I'd like is a motion to draft the changes needed for this ordinance to make it more compliable to what we need. And then in a couple of weeks' time, we'd have that before us, and we could go over it and make a lot more sense of what we're looking at and dealing with.
Mr. Chairman, just for
Please.
clarification, I guess I'm not clear that this entire committee thinks those changes should be made, or, I need to know, I guess, what kind of changes you want in the ordinance before I can draft it.
What you felt was necessary with Commissioner Randall's explanation and what we learned here tonight. Commissioner Randall, you had some, I'm sorry, Mr. Randall, you had something to say. And then Commissioner Mankins, I'll jump to you.
Yeah.
Please keep it brief. I have 2 minutes.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, County Attorney Joyce, I would work with the county attorney on amending the ordinance, but again, what direction is it? Is it what we talked about at main thoroughfares, or are you in agreement that that's the route we should take, or is there something else? I don't know. We have a couple minutes to answer that. I guess I'm concerned about that.
I'm not really sure if we have enough time to address that. I think what I'm going to do at this point in time is hold this communication for 2 weeks. We can gather information that we will need to make those decisions, and then we'll come forward hopefully with those answers in 2 weeks. So I will continue to hold this motion for another 2 weeks. That will bring us to item number 2
Thank you,
on the
Mr. Chairman.
agenda. It is a refund for Mark Huntington in the amount of $100 for a refund appeal number 16645, zoning officer's decision. I would ask for a motion on this to approve.
I will make a motion that we approve the claim to Mark Huntington in the amount of $100.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Thumbs down. Seeing none, motion passes. That is the final item. I will have a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
We are adjourned. Thank you all very much. please get ready for our upcoming annual meeting, and I'll see you shortly. Oh, yes.